Alrighty, welcome back to another video. Once again, working on the go-kart because it's a hunk of junk and it broke again. Alright, so yesterday when I was pulling this thing back into its parking spot after feeling it out and testing out the new exhaust on the road and new ignition switch, which you guys saw both of those in previous videos, I had a little bit of an oopsie where you can kind of notice my shifter's gone all limp penis on me here. That's because the linkage did a stupid thing here. So we got a nice over 90-degree bend in there because it fell off the end. So one of these nuts came loose. It slid out from the inside of that hole, fell out, got on the ground, got sucked up and bent. So yeah, it was fun because then, you know, I had to kill it in first gear and then I had to still push it. So I was trying to get it out of first gear and into neutral, and my dumbass decided that I should touch this beautiful header which doesn't have any heat shielding on it yet. And I got this beautiful looking burn. Nice, I wonder if there's any skin fried on there. But yeah, this thing gets real hot, and you can kind of see it's getting kind of a cool blue coloration to it. It's pretty neat. Gets very warm. That was only after running the engine for maybe 2 or 3 minutes too. I held it on the choke for a little while to let it warm up, because yesterday it was fairly cold. So let it warm up the oil and stuff like that, and then let go of the choke and drove it from the driveway to about right there, relative, like on the other side of the house. And that was it, and that's where it broke. And that was enough right there to get this thing up to pretty high temps. So I think it's very important that I develop a heat shield here at some point. Alrighty, so I got the old shifter setup pulled out. And I'm going to be going for a little bit different of a setup. I'm no longer going to be using this 3D printed handle. Well, it's kind of cool. This is just the fucking knob on it is just gigantic. It looks retarded. And it doesn't work all too well. Part of our problem is that that's broken, so that's why shit keeps falling out. So we're going to be going for some nice steel. So my whole idea here, so the pivot point for the shifter used to be here, almost flush with this base plate here. But I'm gonna try and raise it up with these brackets here. Weld them on either side of this hole. And the idea with that is it will allow me to shift the pivot point up. So instead of it pivoting, like say down here, it'll pivot, I'm gonna cut this to length, but it's gonna pivot here. So that means in order for the same amount of deflection at the same height down here, you're going to have to move this less. So it's going to shorten the throw of the shifter significantly, because it used to be like almost like full lock in either direction to shift gears. And that's just, that's more obnoxious than my car was before I put a short shift key on it. So we're going to go ahead and get that all made up. Also, what I want to do is, this is currently set up so that this tab for this rotating bar, which goes to the shifter right there, is, well, on the bottom. Now that's nice and convenient because, you know, the linkage runs underneath this base plate. But the problem is it then has the shift direction backwards. So normally, on a sequential, you pull it back to go up a gear. So up a gear would be this way, down a gear would be this way. On this, it was reverse. Up was this way, down was this way. It was kind of bugging me. So I can simply, to fix that, all I have to do is take this tab and weld it up here. So cut it off here, weld it up here, and then either I'm gonna have to take the new linkage, which is over there, which is a thicker gauge than this. I think this is quarter inch threaded rod, and that is 3/8 inch just round rod, but I'm gonna go ahead and weld some nuts on, or not nuts, fucking bolts to it. That's how we're gonna secure it to the two surfaces. So I mean, this works fine and all. Like, I can shift it just like that, but I would rather it be up here. And then either I'll do like an L bracket like that up, or run it direct and just cut a hole in here. That's also fine for me. I don't really care either way, whichever's easiest. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this shit cut off, knocked out, because I don't want it up here anymore. This is a pretty gross looking welds. I don't need these nuts on there, it's pointless. So we're gonna go ahead and rid ourselves of this and then get these brackets welded on. Alrighty, so we got these all welded in place and they're not going anywhere. So now I gotta go ahead and prep this pipe to become the shifter. So I'm thinking it's probably gonna sit something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld, either drill through this, or I think I have a pipe that will fit on this bolt that I can just weld onto here. That'll make it easier and it will sit either there or there. The only disadvantage of that is I have full throw this way and not as much throw this way, but I can also mount it kind of at an angle. Alrighty, so I got shifter all mounted up. Pretty good range of motion in there, feels pretty good. And yeah, I got this nut welded on there, so I just have to thread in the bolt that is the axis for rotation in from the other side and lock it down, and it's good to go. Alright, so I got the shifter system all set up now. We've got this over here tied in to the top here. It runs down through this floor panel to our shifter linkage. And we can go ahead and if we want to put it into first gear, pull it like that. If we want to put it back into neutral, push it like that, reverse, like that, neutral, first, second, and it locks out because I haven't rolled it. But there we go. I mean, it's a little tight, especially on pulling it back. I didn't really think about that. I angled this kind of like this to make it so I didn't have to cut this all the way down to like here. But in doing so, when you reach the full back position, you can see it's pretty much, it clicks it into gear, but it's pretty much horizontal, which means most of our force is basically trying to pull that nut off rather than, or bolt rather, that stud, I guess, since it's welded on there. So it's trying to pull that stud off rather than rotate that arm. So our torque is significantly less here. But in the opposite direction, it's also much easier. So if this was straight up and down, it would have been ideal, but then we would have run into issues with having to cut this all the way like over here. So I'm happy with how it turned out. Yeah. Just took the go-kart for a little bit of a drive from the garage back into here. Shifter's working fine. It's a little bit stiffer than I would have liked, but I mean, that's expected. I greatly reduced the amount of torque that I'm able to put on it. It's not really terrible, honestly, but the throw is definitely a lot shorter. I mean, there's in gear, there's out of gear. So, I mean, it's really nice, honestly. It's a little stiff, but I'm sure that won't be a problem. And once I get an actual, like, shift knob on there, probably 3D print one that's nice and comfortable. It'll definitely make it easier too. Not only will it give me a little bit more of a lever arm, but it will also, you know, make it so I'm not trying to tug on this hard end of a steel pipe where it's kind of digging into my hand. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed.